So
Well, no. Back down there. Want there more? Here, you take it. Thank you.
you got at least 4 satellite plants in Bulloch County. Two going up in Kansas.
You already have it.
I don't have reports.
Good afternoon. If you'll give me your attention, please. It is now time to start our meeting. It is 5:30. And I'd like to thank Al Hackle for being here with WTOC. And I think we've got, no, I'm sorry. I've got wells and water and thunder and lightning and all that on my mind tonight, I suppose. So let me start over. Al Hackle with Statesboro Herald is here tonight. So then we have WTOC represented, WJCL represented. We have WSAV represented. We have Grice Connect represented. Now, is there any other media that I have missed? Well, we certainly appreciate all of y'all coming. And now we'll have our, going to ask you to do this, silence your cell phones. We've got a big crowd here tonight, and thank you all again for coming. But if your phone rings, please go out in the corridor, answer it, and then you can come back in. And hopefully your seat will still be here. Having said that, I'm going to call on Commissioner Jappy Stringer if he will lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the blessings you give us every day, Lord. Thank you for your love and your grace and your mercy, Lord. I pray that you will bless everyone here and every family represented here, Lord. I pray that you'll give us the strength and faith that we need and the patience and to deal with things today as we bless this board as we deal with the decisions for the county, Lord. I pray that we'll consider everything in your name, Lord. We want to thank you and we want to honor you in the things that we do. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I now ask Ms. Misty White to call the roll for the commissioners, please.
I, Venus Missy White, present as Clerk of the Board of Commissioners of Bulloch County, hereby call the roll for those on the governing body. All those present shall answer by saying aye. Chairman Roy Thompson.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Kurt Deal. Commissioner Ray Mosley.
Aye.
Commissioner Anthony Simmons.
Aye.
Commissioner Jappy Stringer.
Aye.
Commissioner Timmy Rushing.
Aye.
And Commissioner Toby Connor.
Aye.
I've determined that we have all members of the Board of Commissioners present. Therefore, we have a quorum to conduct the business for the good of the citizens of Bulloch County. I now yield the floor back to the chairman.
Thank you, Ms. White. Before I entertain a motion to approve the general agenda, do we have any other modifications desired by the commission board or the county manager? Hearing none, I will ask for the approval of the general agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion, second, discussion, none. All those in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is a presentation by County Manager Tom Couch. He'll lead us in this discussion at the present time.
Good evening, Commissioners. Hope you're all doing well tonight. All right, tonight you're being asked to consider two items in tandem with Bryan County, who has, I believe, already approved such items. I wanted to advise you that a couple of weeks ago, approximately June 12th, I joined in a virtual meeting with our consultants, Bryan County's consultants, their county manager, and the Georgia EPD to discuss pending draft groundwater permits and probable special conditions. Since the public meeting that was held in Brooklet in February, the EPD has had to review approximately 22,000 comments, which has primarily caused the delay in reissuing draft permits. The EPD now plans to release the draft permits in the next few days, which thus required the limited advance notice for both counties and these meetings. Nonetheless, since March, we have finalized the provisions of the intergovernmental agreement and the memorandum of understanding concerning well mitigation. First, I'm going to briefly go over the intergovernmental agreement, which is obviously the lengthier document. Approving the agreement before the EPD issues the draft or final permits is crucial for aligning all the governmental entities and for demonstrating compliance with EPD standards, but also for contract performance and to prevent future conflicts. The compensation pieces are merely transactional, but there is a lot of technical engineering minutia that's typical in water and sewer service contracts. And it's worth noting that the details of the agreement were, at least the body of it or the substance was made public several months ago as a result of an open records request, but continuing negotiations have significantly favored Bulloch County since then with regard to the terms and conditions. I'm not going to go through every section of the agreement. You all have had opportunity to read that. But the key points of the agreement include the following. Bulloch County can use 350,000 gallons per day for a public water system if they choose to do so. And that choice hasn't been firmly made yet, but that would serve approximately 5 to 7 standard subdivisions that we have in the county. Bulloch will also be reimbursed for nearly $250,000 for well site acquisition for the two Bulloch County wells. Bryan County will cover up to $21,000 per month for routine operations and maintenance for the first 5 years of the agreement, and it's possible to negotiate a 5-year extension of that. And according to the engineers and experts that I spoke with for the size of wells that these are, it's highly unlikely that we would pay above that $21,000 per month. Compensation would start at a wholesale rate of $1 per 1,000 gallons, increasing in 5 years later to $1.25 per 1,000, with an annual increase of 2.5% thereafter. And I think it's important to negotiate or not negotiate, but distinguish the semantics between wholesale rates and retail rates. Ultimately, if we are doing nothing but providing water to Bryan County, there's very little maintenance involved. You know, a retail rate, which is typically what a municipality or a county charges to residential and commercial and industrial customers, those kinds of rates are structured very, very differently. And I think you ultimately have to have some kind of expertise in utility economics or finance to fully understand that. You know, it's been suggested that about the agreement with Hyundai, with Bryan County, but something at the level of $12.50 per 1,000. But that also includes sewer maintenance costs in addition to water maintenance. So these are two very different rate structures. And according to the experts I've spoken with in this area of the state, it's pretty typical for a private or a public water utility charge a wholesale rate at about 50 cents per 1,000. Now, at Hyundai's build-out, the county will receive an estimated annual revenue of about $1.7 million and may increase to up to $3 million annually by 2028 if Hyundai delivers on its plans to expand production from 300,000 cars per year to 500,000 cars per year. If not, it'll fall back to 1.7 million, and ultimately after the fifth year, 2.5% inflator thereafter. And like with if you wanted to continue to go down the road and establish a water and sewer utility, sewer service could be provided from the new Bryan County wastewater plant. And the local costs, there's an expression in one of the terms and conditions about equivalent residential units and a $5,000 to $10,000 charge for a capital cost recovery fee, which is technical lingo for buying capacity in Bryan County's wastewater plant. And we'd be able to do that in 250,000 gallon per day increments up to 1 million, which is pretty substantial. But in some of the capital stack planning that we've been contemplating, I think it would be feasible if you go down the utility system road that we either charge development impact fees or enter into development agreements with new development and developers and essentially recoup that charge from new development. And ultimately, you know, if there was sewer service provided, whether it was Bryan or possibly in the future in the mapped potential water district, if you go to the western side of the district in the I-1667 area, it's much more likely that we would have the opportunity perhaps to buy sewer service from the city of Statesboro if you want to go down that road. Now, I'm going to summarize briefly the Memorandum of Understanding. Now, Bulloch and Bryan County, what they're doing with this document is pledging in good faith to create a well mitigation program. And that, in essence, preempts the assured EPD special condition that they're going to have for such a program. Now, the memo also aims to start planning for alternative water supply, which will take years to implement. And I very much equate it to the effort that was made with the Savannah Harbor expansion project, the deepening of the Savannah River to get the big Panamax ships into the port. And from the time that idea was conceived to the time it was fully funded by state and federal dollars, it took about 15 years. It's not something that you do right away. In my opinion, EPD may be being generous given knowing those parameters with 25 years. But I think if you're going to do proper due diligence and try to get the job done, it seems to me that 15 would be sufficient unless there's a serious problem with funding. It can be planned and engineered. Options can be provided for surface water from the Savannah River or groundwater from the north or the west. But ultimately, money is where the mouth is. Okay, so further with regard to this memo, it really just forms a relationship or the relationship for well mitigation And ultimately, I believe it would lead to another intergovernmental agreement, which is more binding, and especially once the plan is drafted and the funding is in place. And the framework that's being considered in this memo is based on research largely from rural California water districts where these types of programs have been in place for a long time, and ultimately they're managed like insurance claims. So here are the considerations for your action tonight. Approving the intergovernmental agreement offers substantial revenue potential in future utility options if you want them. Not approving the intergovernmental agreement may please those who object, but the county does lose control then over $30 million worth of infrastructure assets and millions of dollars in future revenue. Approving the memorandum of understanding demonstrates a commitment to quickly establishing a well mitigation program and satisfying EPD, while at the same time the opportunity to put it in place before the wells are constructed. Not approving the memo may, again, please those who object, but it then risks that Bryan County or the state could dictate terms of the well mitigation plan, and Bulloch County is still going to be responsible to co-fund it. Now, not approving either may, again, please those who object, but may risk harming credibility with regional partners, the state and federal government, thus impacting future cooperation grants and perhaps other types of assistance, whether it's for alternative water supply or anything that's done as a county government. And it may affect cities and other public entities in the county too. It may not be looked very favorable for if OTC or GSU needs something like the OTC robotics facility. I don't think that the present state of Georgia would kick that out from under their knees, but a similar ask again could be threatened by that. So in conclusion, I believe it's naive to think that the wells will not be constructed with or without Bulloch County's influence, or that an effective well mitigation plan will not be developed. I mean, it's going to happen, and that's the simplicity of it. Establishing a wet utility district is optional, and I really don't care whether the county wants to establish a water utility or not. You know, there's been substantial public criticism of me saying that I'm pushing you on it, and I've only done this under your direction. So I have no personal stake or professional stake whatsoever if you or your successors change the direction of where to go with the water utility. The EPD special conditions aren't likely to change that much or that dramatically unless something occurs after they receive public comment. After they issue the permit, I think they've got about 30 days where they've got to schedule a public hearing. It's my understanding that they're trying to acquire the SEB high school auditorium again. So we'll eventually see how that goes, pending tonight and pending other issues. So in finality, only you can decide if you want Bulloch County to be a shot caller in all of this, and whether or not the amount of revenue received or those financial benefits received outweigh the financial or the social costs. So I think in the last few minutes I've tried to summarize those documents the best I can, and as I understand them from Bryan County and other players and actors. So do you have any questions?
Tom, I do have one.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple. Whether we participate or not, are the wells going to be drilled or not?
They'll have to be drilled because Hyundai needs the water. The state will not give them water from Bryan County's yellow zone allocation. So if push comes to shove, I would estimate if you did not approve the intergovernmental agreement, either the state or Bryan County. I believe Bryan County can easily come in and exercise eminent domain. And from that, and if Bryan County does it, the state might be able to do it. But ultimately, I see no other pathway to the wells going in because Hyundai is going to need that water production and usage, not just very shortly. What they're going to do until these new wells are built, they're going to use some of the remaining Bryan County yellow zone allocation. But there is an expectation that these wells be built in the next 12 to 18 months so that Hyundai can ramp up to its capacity. And terms and conditions like these are expressed more formally in the JDA agreements and the inducement agreements. So because those are firm, legally enforceable contracts, then I see no other pathway than either Bryan County or possibly the state, not likely the state, but the state will induce Bryan County to come in and to proceed to construct those wells with unfettered.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Is there any of these wells already existing in the county, as far as from other municipalities, or say, where's Pembroke getting their water from?
Okay, well, Pembroke, my understanding is Pembroke may have a well or two to serve the town, but several years ago, to try to be a good neighbor, and Pembroke isn't a big, wealthy community, although it looks like they're about to become one. But some of you who sat on the board at that time may recall that Pembroke and the county entered into a intergovernmental agreement to get water on IG Lanier Road. It wasn't a very big well, and it wasn't isn't really very substantial in what it pumps. But at the time, and because of the limited usage, and because I think there was an effort of goodwill, there was no compensation or transactional terms and conditions. But it did say that if Pembroke were to increase its capacity, which means they would either have to enlarge that particular well or plant another one, then Bulloch County would have the option to introduce terms of compensation. And are you strictly referring to Pembroke or maybe the other cities?
In moderate terms, I mean, there's places in other counties that have getting water from Bulloch County already.
Yes. Now I think Pembroke's the only one that I'm aware of, and there's no other immediate bordering cities, maybe Twin Cities pretty close, but not that close. But that's the only outside the county arrangement we have. Well, if there's nothing else, we can try it again later, but thank you.
Thank you, Tom, for that presentation. And I'm going to stand up on this one. We're going to now move into public comments. We've got 23
Yes.
signed up, which is approximately 2 hours. And we're going to hear from all of you if you want to speak. If you're willing to sit here for 2 hours, fine. But if someone in front of you states what you were going to say and you would like to relinquish your time, then you just say so, and we'll certainly add, just take your name off the list and we will move on. In about an hour, we will call for a short break. And then we will come back and hear the balance of you that want to speak. So, having said that, then that will be the order. You certainly can clap if you would like. The longer you clap, the longer we're going to be here. So just that the way it is. So we're going to call the first one now. And, I started to ask y'all to try to get a spokesperson, but with this many people that want to speak, we want you to personally speak. So come up, state what's on your mind, and we will use the clock. Now, I know some of you get up here and start speaking and you don't pay attention to the clock. But if I raise my hand, then the bell will have gone off and it's time for you to sit down. So you can finish your sentence and then sit down and we'll call the next one up. Thank you.
Brian Pavund.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm sure no introduction needed, but my name is Brian Flynn for the record. It's going to be a long night. I didn't plan on going first, but I guess I got my name in there first. And it's going to be a little bit different for me and a little bit different for you all too, because I didn't know what to do. I knew I wanted to talk, and I didn't want my feelings to get involved, and I didn't want to berate anybody or do anything. So I put a lot of thought into this, and things happen. And so this is a first for me. Chairman, you said spokesman. In a way, I'm going to be a spokesman tonight, and I'll explain that. So last night, before I called it a night, I decided I was going to speak, and I had this kind of crazy plan that I didn't really have anything to say that I thought you'd want to listen to. So I thought maybe I would just use 5 minutes and have silent prayer, so everybody can pray. And then this morning, one of our citizens wrote and sent me a prayer for us all tonight. So I figured I'll be the spokesman. And gentlemen, I would like to read this prayer. The invocation that Commissioner Stringer gave, that was a very good invocation. I'm not trying to take anything away. I did not write this. I'm a little bit nervous. I've never read a prayer before in public, but I think it is a good start. So I'm going to read this, and I'm going to read this like a prayer, as best I can. Father, we are turning to you now, asking for the promise of your presence to be with us, to manifest itself in our water situation and in the meeting tonight. You promise to provide our needs. You promise that we are your people and that you will protect us. You created this world and have asked us to be good stewards of it. Father, you know we are trying to protect what you have given us, but there are those throughout history who have put personal agendas and financial gain before your people. You have dealt with those, and you will deal with those now. Although we see no way of stopping what is happening, you are God and hold the earth in your hands. Father, help us see your hand in all of this. Your ways are not ours, but your way and the plan is always the best and unique. We will never underestimate your love for us and your ultimate power. You are a God of justice. You have used dedicated and good people in our county to fight this fight. They have fought a good fight. Now, Father, I speak in the name of Jesus over this situation. Help us keep our eyes on you, believing that you not only cause things, but allow things to happen for your glory. Our eyes do not see clearly what you are doing or why, but we will trust you. Father, change the hearts of those whose need changed. Thank you for being present in the meeting tonight. Open the eyes and ears of those who need to see and hear you. Use the ones who speak tonight and give them authority and courage to not only speak your truth, but to represent you so others will know you. Change minds and hearts tonight. Thank you for what you are doing and will do with the situation. Help us maintain hope and to preserve, all while expecting to see your hand and your goodness. In your name, Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ, amen.
Ted Redmond.
Good evening, Board. I'm Ted Redmond. Just got a couple of quick questions for clarification. I assume everyone has a copy of these documents, so I'll get right into it. Paragraph 2.2, it looks like Bulloch County is going to get 2 wells. Is that correct? and of which they're going to pump 3.5 million gallons, of which we owe Bryan County 90% of that. Bryan County is graciously letting us keep 10% of the water that we're pumping from those two wells that we have. So, Mr. Couch, I would contend that those are, in fact, Bryan County wells that we get to own and operate, and 90% of the product is earmarked for them. And we get to keep the 350,000 gallons that you mentioned in your description. Paragraph 3.1.e. All right, when we find a future alternative water source, it says that Bryan County then gets to pump no less than 3.5 million gallons per day from the aquifer. No less than, is that an error? Or is it no more than? Should it be no more than? Because if it's no less than, they can pump 5 million gallons per day, they can pump 7 million gallons per day, they can pump 10 million gallons per day, they can pump whatever they want from that aquifer. And we're selling that to them at the low rate of $1 per 1,000 gallons. My question posting on for that is, why didn't we just cut out the middleman of Bryan County, build the wells ourselves, and then sell the water to Hyundai at a retail rate of $5 to $10 per 1,000 gallons? That way, but instead we've entered this convoluted plan of Bryan County's getting some of our wells, we maybe get some of our wells that they get to control, tell us how much water we're going to get out of them. This plan is not the greatest plan I've ever seen. All right, paragraph 4.4. North Bryan County Water Reclamation Facility. It's being built on I-16. It says that we owe our portion in full in 6 months after starting. How much is that? What's our cost?
If we bought capacity at 250,000 gallons a day, approximately $8 million.
Okay,
So, but again, the capacity we're buying is in lieu of having to build our own wastewater plant. And
understood. Okay, so where's that money coming from? Was it in our 2025 budget?
it hasn't been decided whether or not the utility is going to be established yet.
Okay, very well. Now, mind you, we are getting $3,500 from selling Bryan County 3.5 million gallons per day. So already there's a significant gap of what Bryan County is going to pay us and what we're going to have to pay Bryan County to use their water reclamation facility. But it gets worse. Paragraph 4.6. Bryan County, the sewer capital recovery fee, the base fee plus the sewer capital recovery fee is $10,000 per ERU. An ERU is 300 gallons of wastewater. So as soon as we start using Bryan County sewers, correct me if I'm reading this wrong or if I'm doing the math wrong, we owe them $10,000 for a measly 300 gallons of wastewater that we send through Bryan County sewers that they're building up there. Furthermore, the sewer capital recovery fee is $5,500. When does that fee end?
It's a one-time fee.
It's a one-time fee? Mm-hmm. Okay. It doesn't say that. It does not say that.
But it's understood. But what I'm saying, laugh if you will, but,
It has to say it in black and white.
Yeah, okay, well, however literal you want to make it, the plan
It's a
would be if
contract.
however literal you want to make it, the plan would be, as I said earlier, is to recover those costs through development and impact fees if the commissioners were so willing to do so.
Okay, let's move on to the water mitigation MOU. All right, well remediation. So car production starts October 1st. My well runs dry October 31st. Just putting out a scenario. I notify the appropriate county, and then we use a mutually agreed upon independent entity to do the investigation if my well has run dry from this plan. What's the lead time on that? How long before I get well water back?
That's why we have to establish the framework and the plan so we can do it
We have a couple months.
immediately. Yeah, I know.
So I may be, citizens of Bulloch County may be out of water, their well water may be gone for 6 months? We don't know is the answer, is the real answer. Okay,
No, that's not the real answer. The answer I gave is that when the mitigation plan and the framework comes into place, we will establish all of the timing and coordination with independent parties so that the wells can be restored as expeditiously as possible.
I understand that that's the intent.
Oh, I know, but you're saying it's not going to happen, and you said a couple of months, and that's not true. We can have the plan done, and we can have things in place by the time the wells are constructed.
Mr. Coach, it appears that Bryan County's water problems are solved and our water problems are just beginning.
Kristen Stamfer. Kristen Stamfer.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Kristen Stamfer, and I represent Coastal Communities United. I come here today to remind you that it is not the citizens of Bulloch County's burden nor responsibility of the citizens of the region to sacrifice their groundwater resources for industry because the Development Authority was not honest or thoughtful in their planning. It is not the Bulloch Commissioners' problem, nor burden to put on people when proper planning could have ensured an alternate water source. We now know the groundwater oversight broke federal laws and regulations. If you allow the installation of these wells without requiring the proper EIS to be done, you are accomplice to this crime and liable to the public. Rushing into this decision with such a high magnitude, impact on human health and the environment without the required and proper environmental analysis puts you at the same fault as those in the limelight now. Thank you.
Pam Schuman.
My name is Pam Schuman. The first gentleman touched on what I wanted to say, and it was on the behalf of the citizens when their wells go dry outside of the 5-mile radius. What are you going to do if it's 6 or 7 miles, if it's wrote in a contract for 5 miles? And I was also concerned on how long these people will be without water.
Will Anderson.
How are y'all? Thank you. I farm on the south end of the county. Just listening so far, Mr. Couch, can you tell me 100% for sure somebody will come in and drill those wells?
That would be the expectation of EPD, so we would be bound by that through the permits, so I would say yes.
You think so? For sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not really prepared like the rest of them, but I do make a living off the ground and farm and have wells, and I know a little bit about them, but we have 6 and 8 inch wells. And I don't know if y'all remember, some of y'all probably do, I'm sure. I'll tell the story quick. From 98 to 02, we did not pick a cotton crop over a bale per acre. And there was a reason for that. It didn't rain. Well, I dug in 2000, I dug my first well, or I submitted an application for my first well. At the time, they said there will never be, the EPD said this now, there will never, ever, ever be another deep well dug in this area because of the drought. What I'm getting at, since 2002, we have not had consecutive years of drought like we had then. Do y'all think we'll have it again? I can promise you we will. When that happens, I mean, I know y'all will probably research this, and wells will go dry. My question is really, it's hard for me to imagine we've gotten this far. You see what the citizens want. Instead of pushing forward, y'all should have been fighting against it, is what you should have been doing. I don't clap and all that. It's just unbelievable to me that we've gotten to this. We're supporting a green energy plant coming in here. We all know that the majority of the workers are not going to be local. They're going to suck our aquifer dry, possibly. If it rains, I don't think it will. I think if we get plenty of rain like we have the last 4 or 5 years, I think we'll be fine. But I'm telling you, when we go through a 98 to an 02 like we did, my question is, have y'all thought about the burden you're gonna put on Bulloch County when the law, I know what I'm talking about, when the lawsuits start? Because when I got 10 or 15 6 to 8 inch deep wells, I'm out of that 5 mile range that y'all have. And y'all have the little money set aside. Y'all can't set aside enough money. I mean, I don't know, where's that money gonna come from? Well, my well, and I'll tell you something else is gonna happen. All of my wells are just like everybody else's wells. They're 500 to 600 feet deep. You know what you're gonna have to do? You're gonna have to go deeper. That's gonna be a lot of money. And you're also gonna have to get a permit for it. So when the Hyundai plant needs the water, do you think they're gonna give me a permit to suck water? So what I'm saying, have y'all thought about that? As far as the farmers on the, I'm not talking, I mean, everybody likes water. I do. I like to drink it and take baths and all that. But what's you gonna do about the farmers on the outside of that? This guy, like a 6 inch deep well now is $60,000. An 8 inch well is about $80,000, isn't it? 82,000. So what are we just gonna shut down farming? We're just gonna quit? Because now we've been put on the back burner this whole time. And it's our fault. But I mean, is there gonna be any money set aside for that?
I think that depends on EPD special conditions, and it was mentioned earlier about the radius of the cone of depression and being the 5 mile radius. And, there's going to be an opportunity for a public hearing with EPD regarding this. And if it's 5 miles or 10 miles or 20 miles, the science that's being relied on is what's given by them. So I think if you have data-driven evidence with the EPD that it's going to have a bigger impact than a 5 mile radius, then that not only
Where will the money come from?
That's what I'm about to talk about. That is either going to activate a decision that realizing that the EPD realizing that Bulloch and Bryan County are only going to be able to do so much, and ultimately the state or the feds are going to have to come in if there's a wider impact.
And one more thing, you talk about making money with these wells, right? They're an income source, right, for Bulloch County?
In normal times, yes.
In normal time, like splashing the burr. Y'all done real well with that. My only suggestion, y'all should table this until January, really.
Clayton Anderson. Mr. Clayton.
Stand right here. Mr. Anderson, we need for you to come to the mic.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Clayton Anderson. I'm a farmer in Bulloch County, and I ditto everything that Will Anderson has said. I'm concerned that drilling these wells will lower the Florida aquifer and adverse my ability to farm. And I'm opposed to drilling the wells like most everybody else is here. And the more I hear about it, the more I get confused. So I'm thinking you should table all this until the first of the year. That's my comments. Thank you.
Andy Hart. Andy Hart. Okay. David Bennett.
Good evening. My name's David Bennett. I'm here to represent David Bennett. I sent an email to all of you, the commissioners, earlier this week. And I didn't get a response from anybody, but I want to make sure that everybody here knows what I said in that email. I want to appreciate or say thank you to Mr. Connor for reaching out to me Monday night and discussing this with me openly and honestly and listening to my feedback on it. I'm concerned about the subjects listed in the agenda for this called meeting. While I'm against proposed drilling of wells based and have concerns, they will have devastating environmental impacts for decades to come. I realize that these wells will be drilled regardless of the will of the people or the environmental impact. My concern tonight is ensuring that the people of Bulloch County are protected by clearly articulated well mitigation plan. The fact that the County Commission is considering the water mitigation agreement with Bryan County in its current form, which is almost a word-for-word copy of the draft mitigation plan proposed by the EPD, with almost 120 days to develop a true comprehensive water mitigation plan, is even more concerning to me for several reasons. At the water meeting held at Southeast Bulloch High School in February, the EPD solicited public comments on the draft water mitigation plan as part of the well permitting process. The mitigation plan you were considering this evening does not take into consideration any of those comments, nor does it take into consideration any feedback that the EPD may provide regarding the well permits as a whole or the mitigation plan in particular. Since the water meeting in February, the EPD has not released any other guidance regarding water permits. Tim Powell asked the commissioners about this issue in May of 2024, and the board collectively stated that the commissioners have not heard anything else regarding the issue. It does not make sense to vote on a water mitigation plan without first receiving feedback and guidance from the EPD on this issue. Taking action on water mitigation plans before receiving EPD guidance appears to be putting the cart before the horse. As stated at the meeting, the water mitigation plan, as written, includes a lot of vague ambiguous language without providing clear guidance on what individuals be required to provide in order to obtain water mitigation funds, or more importantly, a clear funding source for the water mitigation funds. Billy Hickman called me this afternoon and stated that Bulloch and Bryan counties have pledged $250,000 each for the Mitigation Trust Fund. However, there is no mention of that funding or any other funds in this MOU. How can this plan be funded without costing the people of Bulloch County? Do you intend to have bake sales and bikini car washes? Because there's no plan described. Without a clear source of funding, I fear that the taxpayers of Bulloch County will be on the hook to pay for the mitigation of wells for an initiative that was started by the state and private industry. If the state truly wants these wells, why are they not indemnifying the water mitigation plan, thus putting their money where their mouth is, in order to ensure the wells are constructed and ready for use in a timely manner? Number 4, frankly, the lack of a comprehensive plan within this MOU scares the hell out of me. While the MOU states that eventually Bulloch and Bryan counties will develop a plan that will include a feasibility analysis, program structure, public outreach and education, mitigation services, criteria for eligible applicants, fiscal management, program monitoring, and annual reporting, none of that information is provided at this time. The devil is in the details, and this MOU does not provide any detail. The people of Bulloch County do not trust the Board of Commissioners to follow the people's will and advocate for them in the execution of this program or mitigation program. Without the text of the details plainly spelled out prior to the adoption of the MOU, we have no assurance that this board will not sell out the people of Bulloch County for the promise of 30 pieces of silver in water revenues. I, like many others in this community, have heard rumors that the governor has placed an ultimatum before you to make wells happen, or the state will make it happen, and the county will miss out on potential revenues from the wells. I view threats like these to be inappropriate at the very least and could have legal ramifications for the parties making these statements. Presently, there is a clearly outlined legal process in the state of Georgia for the permitting and construction of wells. Our county should not be bullied into rushing into agreements because the process does not fit the timeline for the governor, Hyundai, or anyone else in the state. A failure to plan on the state's part does not constitute an emergency on our part. If this is the fact of the situation, I would encourage you to stand up in this meeting and honestly explain to your constituents what has happened and reject these motions placed before you. This is the only action that will demonstrate that you are working for the people of Bulloch County, not Brian Kemp, Hyundai, and the JDA. Finally, I will remind you that on the 8th of May, 2024, Governor Kemp vetoed a bill that would have increased the homestead exemption he vetoed the bill that would have increased the homestead exemption due to errors written in the bill. As written, the water mitigation bill is fraught with issues that will likely cost the taxpayers of Bulloch County in the future, just like the homestead exemption bill vetoed by Kemp. I encourage you to vote no on the water mitigation agreement, then allow the well processing to continue as prescribed by law before making any kind of legally binding agreements regarding the wells. If you truly love Bulloch County, as many of you have said over the last few months, this is the only acceptable option given the current situation. Thank you.
Courtney, and the last name did not complete, of Wellington Drive. What's that last name? McKenzie, okay.
My name's Courtney McKenzie. I'm actually not from Bulloch County. I'm from a neighboring county. I live right on the border of Chatham and where it breaks into Effingham County. I guess I'm going to change not really change it, but I live directly across I-16 corridor where the meta plant is. I have already been suffering water issues, and I want people to know that. I've already been 5 times, counting, been without water. I don't know what's going on, and it's never happened before. I want you guys to know that. And I don't know, I'm connected to just the city water. It's not a well. I've already been they're having main breaks is what they tell me every time they call, or every time I call. And I really want to know, my question to you, because you said we're going to rely on EPD investigations. Have they, or whatever their research is going to be, have they done research to what is already in our waterways? Before the meta plant came here, has any research been done by EPD?
When you say in our waterways, what do you mean?
Chemicals. There is farmers that are already being impacted in Kentucky, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana by chemicals in their land soil, their cattle, and their wives, the women. They have infertility issues due to the chemicals that have been dumped back in their waterways by these automaker plants. DuPont, 3M, Ford, Hyundai's here now. We had no choice.
I'm not aware of any,
So do you trust the EPD if you're not aware?
you didn't let me finish what I was saying.
Okay.
I'm not aware of any source pollution from land, seeping into the rivers or waterways that has been done by EPD. The only information they shared with us is information they shared at Brooklet about the water source and the aquifer for drinking water. So I'd have to direct you to the EPD to see if they have done any source pollution investigations.
Well, I don't get any answers from them. I've already been in contact with them about a plant within Effingham County, and they direct us to contact the plant ourselves as citizens. Just want you to know that. They tell us to reach to them, and we have to send an email.
Right, I understand. But I can't tell you what I don't know.
That's why I think this should wait. All of this vote should wait with everybody else, because we don't know. And then those farmers that are in these other states across America, their farms are being shut down. Their income is being shut down, and they are having to sell their land to the government in those states. And then those plants are just moving over onto their properties. Do you know that?
I'm familiar with some of it. I know there's issues in, say, rural Ohio or with algae blooms that are caused by, fertilizer runoff that runs into the Great Lakes and such. I mean, anytime there's a chemical influence through any type of economic activity, whether it's farming or physical development, it does carry that risk. But I can't explain EPD's response to you. I would think they'd be more responsive than that, but, I just don't have any knowledge of those kinds of investigations being done.
Well, I didn't want to add this in there, but my dad did, and he's not here because he actually works for a big construction company that actually does a lot of paving for Hyundai and the Meta plant. They have pulled out of their work because they don't support it, the people that work there. And he stated, is this going to be, in the end, another Camp Lejeune where all the water was contaminated, everybody was without, and no one came to help until there was lawsuits?
finished it was 5 minutes ago. Yeah. By the way.
I just want to know, do you think that we're going to be, all of our counties are going to be impacted by huge lawsuits in the end of all this? And then we're funding it.
That's a speculative and esoteric question that I simply can't answer.
I don't think it's speculative because we're already seeing it in other states and in lawsuits. So,
I respect
that's
your
all.
opinion.
That's all. Thank you.
Ben Kirsch.
Good evening, Ben Kirsch, Legal Director with the Ogeechee Riverkeeper. I was able to get some comments out last meeting, so hopefully these will be a little shorter, just rehashing that. Again, I want to start with how quickly this vote is taking place. 72 hours, 24 hours, it's not really enough time to do this. You know, you all have been negotiating this for a while. You've had opportunity to look it over. We haven't had that. And this is not really the forum for, you know, a conversation to work out the details, figure out the best path forward for everyone. It'd be great to delay the intergovernmental agreement, open up a forum, figure out the concerns of the community, see how we can meet in the middle and find a path forward. I will also add that while it would be nice for the EPD to see this approved prior to the permits coming out, the permits will have a 30-day comment period. EPD is going to review it again, and anytime in that period, these can be approved. This agreement doesn't need to be approved in order for the laws to apply. The laws are going to apply to this regardless. So rushing this because it needs to be done before the permits come out, I don't think is a valid reason to rush this. Coming back to my specific concerns with the intergovernmental agreement, one gentleman brought up the fact that 3.5 million gallons are going to be required to be pumped out of the wells for Bryan County. Just to put that into perspective, I heard an ERU of 300. EPA had an estimate of 400 gallons per day for a four-person household. 3.5 million gallons would serve 8,750 houses. And individually, 82 gallons per day with 3.5 million gallons per day would serve over 42,000 people. So this isn't an insignificant amount of water. People are coming into this area. We're going to need to use this clean, pristine Florida aquifer water for people. We don't want to have to rely on surface water for people to have to treat that. This water coming out of the aquifer is clean, it's pure. It needs to be for people, for agriculture. With the pre-treatment again of PFAS, we want to make sure any waste that is getting sent down to Bryan County takes PFAS out ahead of time, pre-treats it to make sure that the North Bryan Water Reclamation Facility can further treat it and no PFAS end up in the water where it ends up in fish, ends up in wildlife, ends up in us eventually. Turning to the MOU regarding well mitigation, we want to see individuals from impacted communities on that advisory council so that they can be a part of that process, bring concerns to the implementers, make sure that the turnaround times are as quick and efficient as possible, and we want to give them a voice, especially since they haven't had a voice in this process up to this point. My last point is a question for you all. You all said that these wells were going to happen one way or another, whether it's Bryan County coming in or the state coming in. Do we know of any example where one county has come in and used eminent domain in another county in order to get what they want? It seems like a political entity has power within its own boundaries, but just because it owns property in another one doesn't necessarily mean it has a right to do that. You weren't concerned that the state was necessarily going to do that, but I don't know the powers of Bryan County to be able to do that.
According to our county attorney, staff attorney who isn't here, he suggested that there's case law that supports it, although I don't know the citation. And I don't know if Mr. Roundtree wanted to chime in on that, but But I think that's our conclusion, that they have the ability to do it if they chose to exercise it.
Well, thank you for that. I'll be happy to talk about that at a different point. But again, I want to urge you all to delay this vote on the intergovernmental agreement until you can get with impacted communities, with the community, figure out a way to do this. You have 30 days until the permits come out and time after that to approve this. There's no need to rush in 24 or 72 hours to do this. Thank you.
Bruce Simons.
Gentlemen, I don't have a lot to say. I said it. I was one of the few that was able to talk the other day. Y'all know how I feel. I think this thing, like everybody else, needs to be pushed back, do some more research. That point on I-16 needs to be wiped out, needs to be pointed a well. 10-mile radius, protect everybody. We need to know where the money's coming from, who's going to take care of us, or whoever's in. This is being rushed. This MOU is not what the citizens want or need. And I think, guys, y'all need to stand up for the citizens and what they want at this point. You need to push back. That's all, push back, fight Bryan County, fight, the state if we have to. Don't just say, we give up. It's coming, we give up. We need to make sure everything's in place, to protect the citizens. Even if it's coming, we need things in place to protect it. Future generations, future farmers, we gotta have it. Just think about it, table this, let's see what we can do long term. Thank you.
R. Ryan Brannon.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Will and Mr. Clayton kind of started down the path, but I want to offer a little different subject. I want to play on your heartstrings a little bit tonight. I'm Ryan Brandon. For those who don't know me, I'm a lifelong resident here in Bulloch. I'm a fifth-generation farmer, and I have shamefully stood quietly while this travesty has unfolded right here before our eyes. I knew about this through extension connections before it ever became mainstream in the news. I hate to say I thought something like this could never come to fruition in our county, as no one could possibly agree to this devastating, possible catastrophic event that we have here before us today. But here we are, with the possible balance of life on the line. Commissioners and company, I come before you today to pose just one simple phrase in hopes that you will, before ultimately vote on this possible life-changing item. What are you going to do? What are you going to do if your actions lead to direct water shortages that will affect your loved ones, family, children, grandchildren, neighbors, and others that surround us? What are you going to do if salt intrusion magnifies in our immediate area? It's not far away now, or Brian wouldn't even be over here courting us for our ability to still drill wells without that issue. I've heard and read the so-called experts, but nobody knows what exactly will happen until it's too late on this issue. But everyone knows how to save the ship after she sank. What are you going to do if this directly affects our area farmers and their ability to water their crops and maintain their livelihood? I think it goes without saying that I like to eat. The state already monitors irrigation wells and have been for years, cynically saying I believe that it is their intention to limit or curtail or even monetize irrigation water. Bulloch County has some of the finest farmers in the world. This county wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for agriculture. We paraded around while doing everything we can as a county to allow our precious farmland to be gobbled up for profit. Now we're after the water for profit. But I can guarantee you that this will cost more than you can pay with money in the end. You can't ride two mules one behind. What are you going to do if our local food supply is affected by salinization or water shortages, or farmers and gardeners who can't grow the crops that they once could? That should alarm you unless you're one of those folks who believe it magically appears in the grocery store. I guess maybe we can put a Parker's or a car wash in the farmer's market. What are you going to do when the same folks who are pushing you now to sell your family and neighbors down the river for profit come up with another industry that has to have all the same parameters? because you have been pushed and coerced behind the scenes and told it was all okay when in fact it's not. Matter of fact, not one person here or anywhere for that matter knows what's going to happen. It's the fast talk and, hey, we're here from the government, we're here to help, that scares me the most. There's way more that is unanswered than it is. What are you going to do when you're standing around wondering what you're going to do because you rushed this and it all turned out it wasn't the truth? You listened to someone who signed a paper before you knew about it, and handpicked experts told you it would all be okay. But now they're nowhere to be found, and everyone is looking at you. You the ones who made the decisions. You the ones who let the folks bully you into ruining the very life source that we have to survive on that is not in peril as of tonight. Hyundai doesn't care about Bulloch. You, me, our people, land or farms. They plan on squandering and using whatever resource they can to further line their pockets. In the wake of destruction, I feel like it will be so long lasting after this that it will be almost impossible to correct. I know, nor you, I hope that neither one of us have to watch what I've laid out unfold. If there are people who have pushed this, tell us. Tell the people. Tell the people so we can fight with you instead of against you. But there are experts saying that this is going to be fine, right? I don't know. All the experts saying that this is going to be disastrous, going to be right? I don't have that answer. You know, I guess that even Babe Ruth struck out every once in a while, but I'll leave you all with this. If this county has agreed to provide, as it's written here tonight, ends up with it all being okay in the end, then I guess a blind hog finds an acorn every now and again. Just a little tidbit of fact, they're talking about drawing as much water out of the ground a day as I'm sure most everybody in this room is familiar with the city of Portal, that they are allowed to draw out in a day. It's 35 times the amount of water that Portal can draw in a day in one day with a Hyundai plant. Just a little fact for you. Thank y'all.
Lawton Sack.
Commissioners, I come before you once again to speak, and tonight to tell you once again, I don't think you understand the powder keg that y'all are sitting on tonight with a lit match in your hand. But what I can tell you, and I was reminded of this Monday night, I'm not a stupid person. I understand politics from my over 2 decades in this. And I understand the game that's at play. How do I know? I'm gonna grow a set of balls, Toby, that you told me to grow. All right? I got a message from our state senator last night through a third party telling me to keep my people calm or risk funding for the next 2 years from the governor. I've known Billy my entire life. He didn't have the guts to call me and tell me to my face. But you know who did? Lehman Franklin spent 6 hours with me last night going over all of this. He's a man that cares about the people. He's man enough to admit that he doesn't know. I have concerns tonight that Tom Couch is the only one of y'all answering questions. The commissioners need to be the one, if y'all gonna vote on this tonight, y'all need to have the answers that these people are asking and not relying upon him to give these answers. I've done my homework. These people have done their homework. I've spoken to people all across the state. I know what Governor Kemp's doing. And I can tell you, I stood right there beside Governor Kemp through many elections. He called me Mr. Chairman, and I called him whatever his title was at the time. And I can tell you, what he is doing to this county is not right. And if he had the guts to come to this county and stand up in front of these people, I tell you, there would be protests, there would be people booing him, and what he is doing and putting this 10-day deadline on y'all to get this passed is just wrong. And don't try and pull wool over my eyes and pretend phone calls haven't happened, because I've heard it from elected officials. They've told me point blank that this is coming from the governor's office. Tom Couch said it tonight. We're risking money for the robotics program at Agee Tech by not giving away our water. We can't be bribed. Governor Kemp, I hope you're doing this. I'll be more than happy to give you my phone number if you want to call me and talk with me about it. David Bennett did the same through Billy Hickman today. This is a lot more than just putting in wells. This is protecting the rights of Bulloch County citizens. And I tell you, these people are fed up with it. We just had an election. I know y'all don't want to hear about it, it's okay. But these people spoke up, 2-1, saying we won't change because we're not being listened to. That's right. And so they keep showing up. They are sick and tired of being ignored. You know who was not part of the negotiations with Bryan County and Bulloch? The citizens. You know who has not had a seat with the governor? The citizens. You know who Billy Hickman's not listening to? The citizens. Who are we to turn to then? What we're doing is we're having to turn to one another, and we're having to educate people, doing what y'all should have done. We had to do ORRs to get this information. It wasn't given to us. We had to beg for it. We had to ask for it. And it shouldn't be that way. Y'all should be educating us. We should be a part of this process. I'm going to ask you to vote no, not just to table this, but just tell the state of Georgia, to tell Governor Kemp, this is Bulloch County. This is our water. We're in the green zone. We've been blessed. We've got farmers. Man, bless you, Will and Ryan, for having the guts to stand up for hundreds and thousands of people in this county that rely upon agribusiness. And I'll remind the governor, one of the largest industries in the state is agribusiness. And we do a lot more business than Hyundai can ever dream of by planting seed. And we need that water to grow. Don't sell out this county. You've already done that. You already said, well, we're scared of losing money. Billy Hickman's scared of losing money. We're scared of losing our rights and our water and our freedoms that we have been given. Fight for us for once. Thank you.
Randy Proctor.
Well, look here, fellas, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of coming up here and looking at y'all. Now, let me tell you, y'all, I'm like this guy. Y'all, somebody ought to do their homework, because I read a lot of this EPD stuff. Is there any one of you gentlemen up there a geologist? If you are, please raise your hand. I talked to geologists. I read the reports. I read what Mr. Couch wrote. I don't even know, I'm not absolutely 100% sure that all you gentlemen did. Now, I had an unusual situation this week. I met Mr. Jeffrey Stringer in the parking lot of Tractor Supply, and we talked. Now, I know Jeffrey is, look here, I've known Jeffrey Stringer for 40-something years. I've known Toby Connor all of his life. I've known Russian there for about 40 years. I've known Roy Thompson for 50 years probably. Me and him about the same age. Look here, y'all letting this bunch of politicians and Mr. Couch lead y'all down a road of destruction along with us. And I tell you what, this is a pretty daggum ignorant situation. But you know what else is so ignorant about this ignorant situation? Is y'all. Toby Connor, you need a 300 horsepower tractor to farm an acre garden? You don't, do you, Toby? You don't need that. Look here, you cutting our throats. And I live down the lower end of Bulloch County. I farmed coming up as a kid. I got cattle. And I got a little old shop down there I work in. Now, my Bessie is my cow. I don't want to have to tell Bessie that she needs to go to a fence post and get a drink of water from the country corner that I bought. Now, Tom Couch don't know. And that girl out there at the Southeast Bulloch that night, she didn't know. Only thing she was telling all of us was what she was getting paid to tell us. I done talked to Mr. Florchette. I've talked to 2 other geologists. Ain't none of them can tell you how much that drawdown is. And they know they can't. They told me they couldn't. They can't tell Mr. Couch no more than nothing. So look here, fellas, don't table this thing. I'm like this guy. Send a message back to Atlanta, Georgia, to our hotshot governor and tell him we ain't doing this, fellas.
That's right.
We got guns too. We ain't doing it. We just ain't doing it. And you doing this for a dadgum foreign car plant. And he tells you, hey, has he not threatened y'all to cut our government money off? Please, gentlemen. I mean, look here. And look here. I'll tell you one thing, and Jappy Stringer will tell you this. I apologize to Jappy if I had done anything to him that was not right or hurt him in any way. And he told me no. Ain't that correct, Jappy? And we shook hands because I want to be Jappy Stringer's friend because Jappy is a family person I know. And gentlemen, this ain't right. I don't care what you think or what you say, because let me tell you something. Ain't nobody appointed nobody God over me. My God's in heaven. He ain't walking around down here with all that. So, look here. Quit this crap. And quit meeting with Bryan County. Ain't nobody dragging you over there, Mr. Crouch. You getting in your vehicle and going over there on Bulloch County time to hang us. You keep your tail up here in this office and mind your business and stay out of Bryan County. Thank you, Jim.
Lucia Burgess Hurst.
Hello again, Commissioners. I have taken it upon myself to continue to survey a larger sample of citizens of Bulloch County since the last time you saw me in January. I have continued to confirm that all of this development is not only designed in favor of Korean Kemp in China, but is also destined to fail by design after devastating our local economy and ecosystems, especially the local farms. My supporting evidence includes EVs are not environmentally friendly or efficient, besides the outrageous amounts of lithium and cobalt. Speaking of cobalt, have you heard about Idaho's government lawfully shutting off the private wells of the potato farmers? It's not due to drought. It's to prioritize the cobalt mining industry funded by the federal Ukraine aid. Speaking of the military, why has the state allowed mega foreign industry within 30 miles of 2 military bases? Talk about a threat of national security. These precious minerals are required for the batteries that are mined by child labor and slaves in disadvantaged parts of the world, now including Idaho. But more well-known, Africa and Australia. Did you know that China owns the water and mineral rights of Australia? This is starting to sound extremely coincidental. The mining leads to deforestation and pollution, just like the local industry development and disposal process will lead to pollution in our area, which was once a thriving agricultural and wildlife oasis. Now let's talk efficiency. EVs lose 30% of their proposed range in both cold and hot environments, such as the weather we are experiencing right now. Hertz dropped most of their EVs. The reason? They are less profitable and have higher damage expenses compared to gas combustion vehicles. Let me add that they are heavy and burn through tires every year, and parking garages are not designed to hold the weight of dozens or even hundreds of EVs, leading to collapses and higher insurance rates. It's good that the budget allowed for more fire trucks. We're going to need them because EV fires are nearly impossible to extinguish. Replacement batteries cost between $5,000 and $60,000 and only last 2 to 10 years. Over 3,000 car dealerships from all 50 states signed a letter to President Biden expressing the lack of consumer interest in EVs due to energy grid instabilities, lack of charging stations, and concern for rare earth mineral supplies. Did you know that charging an EV costs more and takes longer to charge than it does to fill a tank of gas? Well, with all that being said, let's focus on the water. It's known that Statesboro pumps 1 million gallons a day. Honda is going to use a whole lot more. Cutting this short, it's definitely going to affect more than a 5-mile radius of each well, not just one. Why have they been granted access to our beloved aquifer that supplies over 10 million citizens in Georgia, Florida, Alabama, and South Carolina with drinking water when they are located only a few miles from the Ogeechee River tributary? Isn't their long-term plan to pull water from the Savannah River? It is also known that salt water is already leaching into the aquifer through Chatham and Glenn and surrounding counties, which is why Bulloch County was selected to pump the majority of the plant's water supply. The increase will affect the water pressure below our clay floor and will drop the water table under current well lines, leading to the need of well extensions at the cost of our hardworking people. This extreme pumping could also lead to vast sinkholes just like West Main experienced today, causing property damage that we are not prepared for, and not just in the designated impact area. Bulloch County is wholesaling our water to Bryan County, and then they are selling it to the plant, making a huge profit. The details are still fuzzy and admittedly unknown by our local representatives, but this will be an outrageous amount being stolen from beneath our feet, literally, and handed to our neighbors in Bryan County. Talk about horrible negotiation skills. There is profit to be made, but not from us, and we will no doubt suffer the consequences of your decisions. Who on this board still thinks it is a sustainable plan for our county? Going back to the state governments of Idaho and Kansas, cutting off the water to the farmers, is that the next step for our water? Hand it over to foreign industry just to turn it off for the farmers who grow our food? This is a land and water war, and we know where you stand if you vote for it. Farmers have been slaves to their debt and selling their land to subdivision developers to avoid bankruptcy. They are being taken advantage of by the very people that they voted into office to represent them. This will not be forgotten or forgiven. I am sincerely concerned that the board has opened our county up to imaginable risk and future consequences. You are responsible for overdevelopment of our lands with a lack of a decent growth plan, higher taxes in all categories, the mismanagement of natural resources, especially water, and ignoring the voices of our citizens. We, the people, were denied our constitutional referendum on the foreign factories with tax abatement and the Bryan County-owned wells. I fear that this will lead to Bivens actions and crimes against humanity. This is our last chance to dissolve contracts and prevent the devastation to our community. It's time for you to correct the wrongdoings of the past so that we can move forward together. I guarantee that these are my words. I have citations, and I represent the people of Bulloch County. Let the state try to take our water and let the consequences fall on them. I do not consent. No taxation without representation. Let us vote.
Tim Powell.
So here we are in some sort of last-minute emergency to consider an intergovernmental agreement and a memorandum of understanding. A memorandum of understanding that no one understands. Let me tell you a few reasons why no one understands it. It establishes a fund to help people with well damage, but nobody knows where the funds are coming from. A bunch of people who are telling us to dig wells and everything will be fine, trust the science, are going to decide who is damaged? Sounds like the fox guarding the hen house to me. It states remediation options may include methods proposed using best management practices of a Georgia licensed well driller, such as lowering the well pump deeper, or by other proposed solutions mutually acceptable to the Georgia EPD and the parties. Now I ask you, how long has EPD been considering these permits? Well, I think they were submitted last September, so it's almost a year. Do you really think that they can make the decision on what an acceptable Georgia EPD thing is within time to save a corn crop? You could sit around and lose 2 crops waiting on them to make a decision on a well. Finally, it says on line 20 of page 2, the parties agree that unreasonable impacts could occur to some domestic or agricultural wells due to the 4 wells. And I remind the public, there's 2 more wells on top of these 4 coming.
This is in direct conflict with the statement on line 37, page 2, where it says, whereas it is in the best interest of the citizens of Bulloch County and Bryan County that this agreement be consummated. So up here you're saying, we know it could hurt people, and down here you're saying it's in our best interest. Now, I can't speak for Bryan County, but if one well in Bulloch County is affected, it is not in the citizens' best interest. These are our neighbors. They're our kin people. They're your friends. The red dots on an EPD map of southeast Bulloch County don't just represent wells, they represent families, people, neighbors, friends. They don't deserve, nor did they ask for this trouble. Now, what about this other document, the water agreement? I have a question, and I think this is important. I'm not trying to be, obtuse. I want to know, where is the business plan showing the projected expenses, profit, or loss from this proposed Bulloch County water system? The citizens would like to see that before this agreement is signed, because it's going to be our water system, and it's going to be our loss if it's not profitable. Here's my solution, because I always bring them. To put this whole contentious situation to bed forever. Yeah. Step one, read these 2 news articles that came out in the Savannah papers in the last 2 days, and how much trouble is going on down there at that thing over water that was not properly documented, and read the River Keeper's document explaining their intention to sue the Corps of Engineers. Step 2, ask that Bulloch County's $7.5 million be returned forthwith from the Savannah Harbor I-16 Corridor Development Authority, because the entire development down there was based on fraudulent omissions about water use perpetrated against the Corps of Engineers. Step 3, remove Bulloch County from all participation in joint development authorities effective immediately. They only want our water. Other than that, they could care less about us. 4, tell this strutting rooster Governor Kemp that if they want to, we are tired of them trying to run Bulloch County. That if they want to dig wells for Hyundai, have at it. But let it be known to them that our local government will no longer participate in the abuse of its citizens and taxpayers any longer. Leave us alone. So let me say this. I've stood before y'all a half a dozen times talking about this water issue. I've stood before the Water Council back in the last fall, and I've stood up in front of that meeting down there at Southeast Bulloch. So it's no secret that I am vehemently opposed to this water mess. But how did we get here? Savannah paper quoted our county manager as saying in an email that EPD is expected to release draft permits in the next few days. Anyway, I can't go into all that because I've run out of time, but that's all I got to say about it.
Sandra Michael.
I'm going to repeat some of the things already said tonight because apparently y'all forget to listen, and I was already prepared to speak. To the citizens behind me, does anyone believe a single thing that any citizen says tonight will sway the minds of any of these commissioners in front of me?
No. They're already talking with us. We certainly hope so.
We have a serious problem in Bulloch County. Our commissioners don't have the faith of the people. The people don't have faith that their voices will be heard and that their voices matter. So are you working for us? Are you working for the governor, Atlanta, the Koreans? The people of Bulloch County have made it abundantly clear in the election that the direction of this board needed to change, that y'all didn't have the pulse of the citizens. Listen to the majority of the people that you still represent. Didn't you tell me, Mr. Thompson, just 2 days ago that you're still the chairman? Act like it. The people of our community don't want willy-nilly decisions made at the very last minute under orders from the governor to get it done in 10 days. I don't care that he called you. I don't care. He isn't the governor of Bulloch County. There are checks and balances on government for a reason. Tell the governor the state can have it. Bulloch is out. Our citizens don't want this. The citizens that you represent don't want this. Tell Tom Couch our citizens don't want this. Also, why the hell are you answering all the questions? You weren't elected.
Because they were directed to me.
Why are y'all allowing him to answer all these questions? It means that y'all aren't well-versed enough on all these details to answer the questions yourselves. He's not elected. You are. Y'all have a vote. He doesn't. It appears that our faith will be forever lost in you. Give us faith in you as individuals by representing the people, the majority of people. Act like you give a damn what the people are telling you. The majority of the people, the ones who have said enough is enough, about face, change course, change direction, vote no on these two matters today. If what I'm hearing about some of you trying to make the incoming crews more difficult, shame on you. If that is you, whether you're a county commissioner, a county employee, whoever, if you're attempting to make David Bennett's life tougher, Ray Davis's life tougher, Nick Newkirk's life tougher, you need to resign immediately.
Do your job.
Today is a big vote. Make no mistake about it. You all gave a day's notice for a special meeting, and look how packed this room is. This many concerned citizens, maybe not willing to speak, and that's okay, but willing to drop what they are doing on a Thursday night to lend support to those who are speaking, support them, and scrutinize your actions. The intergovernmental water agreement that is being voted on today states, whereas it is in the best citizens of Bryan and Bulloch County that this agreement be consummated and such agreements and such commitments be made. Who the hell determined that this was in the best interest of citizens? There have been many citizens who've told y'all countless times over and over, this isn't good, this isn't good, this isn't good. One of the votes today is a water mitigation plan. Clearly, that sentence from the Bulloch-Bryan intergovernmental water agreement that is in the best interest of the citizens is patently false and a complete and total lie, or you wouldn't need to mitigate anything. But you continue to ignore that. I'm a citizen, and I say that giving away our precious resource to a foreign car manufacturer isn't in our best interest. These wells are not being dug to water crops to feed us or give us drinking water, but instead the proposed wells are, in simple terms, essentially to water cars. The farmers have already talked about being impacted. I want to be able to shower. I want to drink and stay hydrated. I don't want to water cars. I especially don't want to have to worry about general life things, showering, eating, drinking. Since it's clear, despite people telling you not to approve the MOU, that you will approve the MOU because it's clear that you're not working for us, it is one of the reasons you got voted out, and the rest of you might as well step down. It's clear that you're working for a governor in the governor in Atlanta. I have news for you. Like Lon said, we don't like Kemp. He will never get my vote as a U.S. senator or any other job he tries to do. If you were truly working for the citizens of Bulloch County, that 5-mile radius needs to be the whole county. If you're so certain, that it won't affect the wells outside that 5-mile radius, then so be it. It's no sweat to extend the protection zone. Obviously, it doesn't need to be funded by Bulloch County taxpayers. If for absurd reasons that you do approve this crap today, let's talk about the advisory committee. Don't you dare put Benji Thompson or any of yourselves or anyone who is for these wells on that advisory committee. Put 3 of any of these speakers who are against this atrocity today on that committee. Whether you like it or not, the majority of Bulloch County isn't happy with the direction, and you need to put 3 people who are from the majority side, not the minority side, on the advisory committee. Y'all claim that we will reap benefits for years to come. Because we will get long-term financial benefits. That's crap. In what world does the government do anything well? Clearly, y'all can't.
Michael, your time.
I had a lot of clock. I have 2 paragraphs or 2 sentences.
Okay.
The water agreement is a lose-lose situation for citizens. I'm sick of local governments doing the state's dirty work. If the state wants our water so bad, I hope you make them come and take it. Ask yourself before you vote on this if this is truly a good deal for Bulloch. What have a majority of the citizens said to you today? Don't you dare vote yes. Vote no.
Celine Fund.
Before we call the next one up, I would like to respond to a comment that you had made
Yes, sir.
The governor, I have been in politics
Can you
here.
stand up, Roy, where we can hear you?
The microphone. We can't back here.
My comment in response to you made an accusation that the governor had called me. The governor has never called me. I've been in, I don't give a damn what Billy Hickman says. I don't appreciate your saying that. I've been into politics for 23 years here. Don't feel like, according to any of y'all, I've done anything worthwhile, but I will tell you this. I've been here for 23 years in politics. I have never, ever, ever had a telephone call from the governor. And I do not lie. Ma'am?
So is the governor putting any pressure on you?
On me? I'm not talking to the governor. Thank you. Next one.
Have you been talking to the governor? Well, why are y'all?
All right, okay, hold it. We're going to get order back to this meeting. The next person come up.
Hello, my name is Celine Fund, and this is the first time that I've ever spoken. I've been coming to a lot of these meetings. The other people in this room are much more knowledgeable about the topics at hand, but I've been listening, I've been reading, I've been observing, and I have a question, because to me it seems like you're using and you're abusing your power out of spite to make the upcoming person's lives more difficult, but more importantly, I've seen you make decisions that are hurting the people. And I want to ask you, why would you want to make decisions that are hurting the people? Higher tax assessments, higher tax values, growth, more people, more cars, more accidents, higher car insurance rates, forever chemicals killing our fish, possibility of losing our water, moving our turtles. Like I understand growth is coming, but who's benefiting from that? Not the everyday average citizen. The foreign entities are benefiting from that. Large development companies are benefiting from that. People who are in real estate and creating infrastructure, we're not benefiting. Your decisions are hurting us. And I didn't by any means intend of quoting scripture, but there's been a lot of conversation tonight about money and revenue and business and selling and buying. And I think there was even a statement made earlier, put money where your mouth is. So I'm going to quote scripture, Timothy chapter 6, verse 10. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which, while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Thank you.
Nick Newkirk.
Good evening, y'all. My name's Nick Newkirk. When the state calls or y'all talk to the state next time, tell them the Bulloch County citizens don't want this. We are done with it. We want to keep the water to ourselves. We're tired of trying to give it to Hyundai. We want to keep it for ourselves, not for Bryan County. We got to fight for it. And I guess that's the next question. Why aren't y'all fighting for us? You got all these citizens in here that don't want the water. Who's telling y'all that we need the water to make that work? I mean, why aren't y'all fighting for us? We elected y'all. I voted for all y'all last time in the election, well, the previous time. But, you know, why aren't y'all fighting for us? I mean, where is that at? But based on past history, we know how the commissioners are going to vote tonight. So let's talk about the computer models everybody's talking about with the 5-mile radius. These are just computer models. There's nobody out there, there's no site in the state, there's no site in the southeast U.S. that has this much water being drawn out with this many gallons going. So all this is nothing but computer models. How accurate are computer models with the weather right now? Not that good. They can't predict a whole lot right now. And I think that's what we're in right now. So where are these numbers actually going to be at? Is it going to be 10 miles? I know they're calling 19 feet right now and 5 miles, but what are the real numbers going to be? Another question, what happens when, I know y'all hit on it a little bit, but what happens when the citizens' wells dry up? What's the process? I know, is it going to be 1 day, 3 days, 4 days, 10 days before we get water back to the house? My house set up, I have a water source heat pump, so I don't have air conditioner or heat without water. So what happens whenever that happens? I got 4 kids, I got a wife, I got farm animals. What's going to happen with all those? Also with the farmers, if the farmers' pivots dry up, what happens then? How long is it going to take to get the remediation for that? Are y'all going to pay for the crops lost, or is it just going to be to pay for the well to be put back down? Y'all talking about 500,000, I think they said 250 from Bryan and 250 from Bulloch County. A current well right now to drill is $12,000. With $500,000, you're only going to be able to drill 38 wells. How many homes are in that 5-mile radius? Does anybody know?
About 3,000 to 4,000.
3,000 to 4,000 homes?
If you include the area in North Bryan County.
Okay, so how's 500,000 going to handle 3 to 4,000 new wells? Who's going to pay for the extra? It's coming out of the taxpayers' money. And another thing, how long is that process going to take to get the money back? And I keep bringing it up, but we're currently in that same situation with Brandon Pond Road. We've submitted all the stuff to the state, and we're still over about a year right now, the road's been shut down. So is that how long we're going to have to wait for water to get back to our house or get the money back out of it? Are we going to have to pay for it up front and then just hope and pray the government does the right thing and gives us the money back? One last thing, who pays for the well? If the wells are in dry, who's paid? The taxpayers? Is it going to be the local, state, federal? It's all taxpayers. It's not the big industry. We're giving them away tax abatements all the time. We've got to keep the money in-house. And I just wish y'all would stand up and fight for the citizens of Bulloch County. Thank y'all.
Leisha Neville.
Good evening, Commissioners. I would like to say that I'm glad that y'all postponed from Tuesday to today because you didn't have this presentation Tuesday. So at least we got that today. I'm also going to say that I've come to y'all so many times asking y'all to work together. It's not working. I'm also going to say one other thing. I'm going to apologize because I was told that I have called you liars. Well, if I've called you liars, I apologize. Let me change my words. Maybe you did not lie. Maybe you kept things from us. By that, I mean the presentation you made tonight, you did not have that Tuesday when we were here.
Do I have permission for Miss Michael to talk?
Okay, that is unacceptable. Miss Michael is not standing up here. I am standing up here.
Okay.
That's enough of that, Mr. Roy. Miss Michael's not standing up here. I am.
Listen, we're going to have order in this meeting.
And stop the clock. Please. Would you please stop the clock? Because all of this is wasting my time.
Yes, I'll stop the clock.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to have order in this
Control your boy. Control him.
We're going to have order in this meeting. Start the clock back.
I'm sorry, you really just upset me with that. That was rude. That was rude to me. What I would like to say to you is that y'all have told us, no, I don't even know what to say anymore. If I call names, I'm calling people out. I don't even know what to say but I'm just going to say some commissioners have said that you have talked to the governor or the governor's talked to y'all or whatever. I don't care about the governor, okay? I don't. I really don't. Everybody here knows I don't care about Hyundai. Yes, my daughter worked out there. She helped clear the land. That place could fall off the face of the earth right now, and I'd go out and do a rain dance. I don't care about Hyundai. What I care about is who y'all work for. We elected y'all. And I'm not going to say that you lied, okay? I'm going to rephrase that because I think I spoke in anger and said that y'all had lied. You didn't lie, but you didn't tell us everything. And I know that we've been talking about this water stuff for a long time, but we haven't seen these papers. And the EPD is still working, and all of this. But the point is, the governor doesn't sign your paycheck. We don't, but we do. We pay you. You're supposed to help us. You're supposed to work for us. You know what? Tell the governor to move on, another state, another whatever. We don't care. We have to protect our county. So what if they threaten to take some money away? Apparently, we have enough to raise our taxes and do everything else we need to do. I mean, I know, I understand, I really do. I understand the threats are there, but it's wrong. Because he didn't elect y'all, we did. And we can't all sit in those chairs. There's only a certain number of chairs. We can't sit in them, so we elected y'all to sit in them and represent us. And you can't represent us if you can't tell us everything. And that's what's gotten to the point of all these people being so upset in the county. And this upsets me. My doctor told me today the stress is getting to me. I'm sure it's getting to some of y'all. You know what the stress is? The stress is going to bed every night upset because my county is falling apart. Yep. This is not the county that I grew up in. Amen. And I've got family, friends, farming. I've got people everywhere that I care so much about. And I'm going to be in your shoes in a few months, and then y'all can come fuss at me. But I just want you to do the right thing. I just want you to remember why you're here. We don't want to try to make money. We want to try to hold on to what we got. And for some of us, that's already been hard. And then if all these problems come about with all of this stuff, I told y'all a long time ago that Hyundai plant wasn't going to be a great idea. And so if all these problems come, it's going to cost us more money that we just can't afford.
Thank you.
Paul Whitlock.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Ms. Neville, I want you to be corrected. I made the motion on Tuesday night that we move presentation until after public comments. So he did not have a chance to make that presentation because we had started public comments first.
Okay, so I was thinking this.
So I made the motion, so I know clearly we moved it so public comments could be first and then the presentation. And then
Okay, well, then I apologize, although I'm still glad we got to see it first. I just thought this was like the same agenda order as the other night. I wasn't like this.
yeah, it was not changed tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Paul Whitlock. Mr. Whitlock.
Relinquish.
Okay. David Jackson.
Good evening. My name is David Jackson. I live in southeast Bulloch. I think what y'all are not looking at is details of these contracts. Answer this, why did Bryan County approve the deal the other night, but eliminated the assistance? They tabled it. So what does that tell you? I've been doing contracts for years with my company. I'm talking contracts. County, city government, big companies and stuff. Multi-million-dollar contracts sometimes. And I can guarantee you right now, I never agreed to any contract that I had to do with the city government, county government. I had a couple contracts with state government until every little detail was put in that contract. And my attorney in Atlanta would say, yes, this looks good. Y'all need to pay a little more attention to the details here. See what's being left out. Seeing what can be brought back around to their benefit, not ours. And if this goes through on down the road, you know what I did Saturday? You know how I spent my Saturday? Had my 8-year-old grandson and my 10-year-old granddaughter. We went out to Strickland's farm. We picked tomatoes, we picked corn, picked squash. Took them to a blueberry farm. We picked about 5 pounds of blueberries. If these farmers ain't got the water, how do I spend my Saturdays with my grandkids? Go to a water park that might not have no water. You know, I mean, this is stuff y'all got to look at. You ain't got just us. You got a future growing up in this county. And you got to give that consideration to them too. I know Toby here, he's got a farm. I know there's plenty of farmers in here. Y'all need to take into consideration what has supported this county over the 100 years or so. And it ain't freaking Korea Kemp, it ain't Hyundai, and it ain't these crooked politicians trying to pull the wool over your eyes and telling you, you got to do something. Because I'm going to tell you right now, me being the state president of a motorcycle organization, don't nobody come and tell me I got to do anything. I tell them.
Stephen Deacle.
Good evening. Glad to be here tonight. Got a little bit to say, so I'm going to just pretty much read it, and I got a couple of questions. Kind of stinks to get old and need glasses, doesn't it? Let me just introduce myself. I'm Stephen Deacle. Came to Bulloch County in 1990 to go to GSU, but the bigger reason was to live in a small town near my grandparents' farm. Both grandparents passed away. They're buried with several earlier generations near where this Korean plastics company is under construction. Okay. Ego Plastics as a company made $700 million in 2021, according to the release by the governor. And the question is, locally, did they get a generous tax abatement here? Did that company get a tax abatement?
Yes.
Is there a commissioner that would answer?
Yeah.
Is there a commissioner that would answer?
They did.
They did, okay. Did our farmers get any tax abatements? No, I don't think so. Our taxes went up, and that company's gonna be using a lot of water. Now, y'all are sitting here in another meeting for the purpose of approving, let's see, motion to approve. That's what y'all got here. Another water draw from the aquifer, and it's 2 big wells this time. Hyundai, as you know, is a multi-billion-dollar Korean company, and that they're not stupid. If you agree to work with the state in Bryan County, please just recognize you're being played. These are the big boys, and so far they've gotten pretty much everything they wanted. I'll ask you, just as a citizen of Bulloch County, to not sell out our rural neighbors. Some of y'all may be undecided. I don't know. Let the state or Hyundai drill the 2 new big wells. Let them do it somewhere else. Fight for this county, these people. That's my request. But do I even know what I'm talking about with water? with the aquifer. Yes. I work with the Federal Department of Agriculture in South Carolina, and I know the size of the aquifer. We'll also work with water filtration in Mexico, water utilization in Africa, work with the Amazon tribe. I've been there when kids couldn't have clean water in both countries, South Africa and Mexico. I recognize a paid expert from the state said we won't have any big problems. But in my experience of working in water systems in Mexico and water system development in Africa says just don't trust the government. Y'all are the local government. We're hoping we can trust you to say no. A few of you recently got voted out of office, and going along to get along is part of why. Y'all done good work. Some of you, all of you, I don't know, for many years. Mr. Thompson, I voted for you, and a couple of others. I've known you for a long time, though we hadn't been close. You can choose to stand up for the people you represent. I urge you to fight for the farmers and the citizens by refusing to give in to these big companies and the big governor sitting up in the big tower in the big city in Atlanta. Bulloch County doesn't need to pay higher taxes and then have our wells run dry. Personally, I've got 4 kids. One works here in Statesboro, one's in high school, one's in the Army, one's in the Navy, or not, he's in the Marines. My daughter's in the Marines. I've seen thirsty children in Mexico and in Africa. I just urge you to not put our water supply at risk. A lot of these families can't afford to drop a new well or deepen their well. As it's proposed, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Bryan County is supposed to get the water and we're going to get the sewage, maybe a little money. Okay. I got a note here to check the time. Oh, I got 24 seconds. Okay. If I could show y'all a picture. If I can approach. Here's my son. Sure. Standing in 4 inches of good tap water in Africa. Can't even see his feet. It's 4 inches deep. That's what happens when your water system goes bad. We drew water from a pond. Thank you for your time. I urge you to vote no.
Let's see. I want to show y'all something. That's the Holy Bible. I've been accused twice tonight of having talked with the governor about this. I've never talked to the governor. Never had a telephone call. Smile if you like. You got a beautiful smile. I've never talked to the governor about this. Never been approached by the governor about it. Never have spoken to him over the telephone. Never have talked to him privately, publicly. Have one picture made with him out at Anderson's Dollar General out there when he was running for, and it offends me for people to say that I have talked to the governor over the telephone. On that Bible right there, I swear to God that I have not talked to the governor. Now, I had to get that off of my chest.
Perhaps it's time to.
Everybody get him on the phone.
Does he email you?
I can promise you one thing. I don't care, I do care how this meeting turns out, how this vote turns out.
You already know?
No, I don't know. They fixing to tell me. I don't vote unless it's a tie. I wish that this is not here, that we didn't have to make this decision.
No.
You're right, we do not. if this decision is not made, the state's gonna make this decision.
And we'll fight this. We're not afraid of the state.
That was the last speaker that we had, so we're going to move on, and the next item is for the vote. And we got 2 items to vote on. Item number 1 is a motion to approve or deny an intergovernmental agreement between Bulloch County and Bryan County to provide water and sewer services. Do I have a motion?
Chairman, I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. Okay, it looks like it's been approved by 4-2 vote. 3? Got 3 and 1, so it's been approved by a 4-2 vote.
You might want to ask who's in our.
All right. Those voting no, would you show your hands? Thank you. Going to item number 2 is a motion to approve or deny a memorandum of understanding for a well mitigation program between Bulloch County and Bryan County.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any more discussion?
Mr. Couch, I got one question for you. We approved this mitigation. We can manipulate this thing the way we want it, correct? As far as on the framework, as far as our radiuses, all that. This is basically just saying that Bulloch County wants to be a part of a mitigation plan if something happens.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's what this vote's about. So we can work it and get a committee together and get it schemed out.
Correct.
What you want to do? You got to have something in place.
No photos. No photos.
All right. We have a motion. We had a second. All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. 4-2 approval. All of those opposed? 2. So the motion carries 4-2. We certainly thank y'all for coming tonight, and that ends this. I'm going to adjourn this meeting.